we have some staff here from Winnebago County. We have Linda Kollmann from the Emergency Management. She's the director and have been for quite a few years. How many years?
Been with the county for over 20 years, but emergency management about 14 years now.
Okay, so she knows her stuff. And then we have Anna Carpenter, who's new to her role, but she's the Preparedness Specialist with the Health Department. So first of all, I want Linda, you to tell us a little bit about emergency management and what the 4 phases of it are.
I think most people would be familiar with emergency management when you talk about tornado sirens, because we are the agency that does those noon tests on Saturdays, April through October. But what we really also do is provide a structure for anticipating and dealing with disasters. So we work with first responder agencies when it comes to disaster planning, and we also work with the public in preparedness. There are 4 stages to emergency management, 4 phases I should say, and one of them is mitigation. That is taking action to reduce the effect of a disaster. For people for the public, that would be have an emergency preparedness kit. For public sector or government, it's having plans in place and that can help reduce the effects of a tornado to a community or a response to a tornado to a community. Talking about response, taking action to effectively contain or resolve a crisis or emergency. So the Winnebago County Emergency Management Office is also in charge of an emergency operations center that is located at the Sheriff's Office. So when we respond, we open up an emergency operations center. If we have flooding or a tornado, we work with the Red Cross in opening up a shelter for residents, or severe weather monitoring and siren activation. So that's what response is. Preparedness is getting first responders and my agency prepared, and especially the public. What steps can you do to be prepared to handle a disaster if it impacts you and your family? And then recovery, it's assisting the public in the recovery process. If you were a resident in Oshkosh in 2008, you might recall the flooding that occurred here. We had a lot of residents who were still impacted by the flooding after FEMA left town. So we created a long-term recovery group. We bring in resources, United Way, 211, and those are the types of agencies then that help the public recover once disaster and the response from FEMA is done.
Okay, well, that was a good overview of emergency management. Here in Winnebago County, what are some of the top hazards that we deal with?
We have a hazard mitigation plan, and what that does is help us identify what those disasters are most likely to occur. I think if I'd had to ask you, what do you think is most likely, what would you say?
Weather?
Mm-hmm. Weather, yes. Mm-hmm. High wind events are most likely disaster that we would have here. That would include a tornado, and if you've lived in Oshkosh, you're familiar with the high wind events that we've had over the years. Also hail, flooding. We haven't had a lot of blizzards in the recent past, but winter weather also can impact us. Okay. So those are the things that we plan for normally.
All right, so Anna, how does your role come in? How does preparedness and public health overlap?
Yeah, so preparedness and public health work together really nicely, I think, in general. And so when we talk about preparedness in public health, we're really consistently looking at the general services that public health provides. So looking at monitoring and controlling communicable diseases and maintaining environmental health and safety while also promoting community health in our community and area surrounding, as well as working to prevent diseases too. So having that connection for preparedness is very, very similar.
So how do you work with other departments within Winnebago County and help them get ready, help staff get ready?
Mm-hmm. So we work a lot in our department with our staff. So we have nurses and environmental health specialists, health educators, dietitians, and working specifically and a lot more lately on staff training and making sure that our staff are prepared and trained in the incident command system, which is a nationally known and recognized system of working in disasters and with preparedness. So having our staff familiar with that, because other agencies that are involved in disasters and management also are using that same system, and so then the terminology is the same throughout.
Yeah, that's definitely a big change that I can tell as your role is ramped up. She's getting everybody on the same page, the same terms we're supposed to go with. Not always as fun to go through those scenarios ahead of time, but definitely helpful to be prepared.
Absolutely.
So back to you, Linda. Why is preparedness important for Winnebago County residents?
If a resident is prepared, that actually frees up time for the first responders to allocate their resources to other areas. It's so important that residents are prepared to help their own family and to make a plan. And government will be there to a certain point, but there are limited resources. As you know, we only have so many employees and so many officers that can come and assist. So if you're prepared, it just eases up the response for other agencies, that other people that may need the assistance more.
And you brought some examples of how they can do that,
Yes.
right?
As we talked about the tornado siren earlier, the tornado siren is really for people who are outdoors, and I think people in the community they think they should hear it in their homes. No, the tornado siren is for people who are at parks or whatever. It's very important that every resident have a NOAA weather radio. If you have this in your bedroom at night and you have a severe weather warning, this will wake you up if your weather radio is on. If you have a severe thunderstorm warning, a watch, or a tornado. So important. I know a lot of cell phones now have apps on them as well. If you have an updated cell phone, you will automatically receive an alert from FEMA. If you're familiar with the Amber Alerts that come over your phones now, the same thing will happen as if you're in a tornado warning. It hasn't happened here in a couple of years, but I think some people will be surprised. So definitely get a NOAA weather radio. Many of your local retailers sell them, and we also have them available at the Sheriff's Office Monday through Friday if you're interested in purchasing one.
Okay.
So the tornado sirens, again, we went over that. We also have a residential guide to emergency preparedness. There's so many great tips on here for what to do during a chemical emergency, disease outbreaks, severe weather, heat safety. You can pick these brochures up at the Winnebago County Courthouse, and the county clerk's office has them. I believe your office has them as well. You can always call emergency management. But we also have a program, an Alert Sense program, that you can self-register your cell phone to receive other alerts besides tornado warnings and Amber Alerts. Check us out on the county website, the emergency management page. Get Notified is what you'll want to click on, and you can receive emergency text messages if you need to evacuate in your area or if there's a situation going on.
Great. Well, it sounds like you guys are doing a lot of things ahead of time.